shackled by a heavy burden, 'neath a load of guilt and shame. Then the hand of Jesus touched me, and now I am no longer the same. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. Since I met this blessed Savior, since he cleansed and made me whole, I will never cease to praise him. I'll shout it while eternity rolls. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me. He made me whole. He made me whole.
The good Lord has blessed me time and time again. I'm free from my past, I've been forgiven of my sin. Sometimes I fail to live just like I should, but he is faithful to forgive, for my God is so good. What a great life, living it with Jesus. His mercies are brand new every day. What a great life, living it with Jesus, walking in his never-ending grace. Just knowing that I am saved, knowing I don't have to fear the grave. Salvation now is mine. What a great life. Everything salvation now is mine. What a great life. What a great life. What a great life. Living it with Jesus. His mercies are brand new every day. What a great life. Living it with Jesus. Walking in his never-ending grace. Just knowing that I am saved, knowing I don't have to fear the grave. Salvation now is mine. What a great life. What a great life. What a great What a great life. Yeah. What a great life. What a great life.
Sam was a carpenter 50 years. He pounded out blood, sweat, and tears. One day he hung his hammer up. He wanted to do the things he loved. What once was Sunday fishing now is 7 days a week. He told his wife to find me, I'll be down at the creek. 'Cause I don't want to drive another nail. I've worked hard to do my job and I did it well. I've got the scars on these 2 hands that show I haven't failed. But I don't want to drive another nail. Now she was a woman full of faith, and old Sam was full of pride. And she knew that he had one more job to do before he died. Easter Sunday rolled around, and a country church for the lost and found. Oh, Sam was there against his will as a preacher spoke on Calvary's hill of how they took the master and they nailed him to a tree. And you could hear old Sam crying as he fell down on his knees. I don't want to drive another nail. I want to live my life for you. I want to do it well. You've got the scars on your 2 hands that show where I have failed. Lord, I don't want to drive another nail. I don't want to drive another nail. I want to live my life for you. I want to do it well. You've got the scars on your 2 hands that show where I have failed. Lord, I don't want to drive another nail.
Good morning and welcome. I want to, on behalf of the Rio Lindo Adventist Academy Board of Trustees, I want to welcome you here to this commencement ceremony. We want to welcome, first of all, our hardworking faculty and staff. Let's give them a big hand. We also want to welcome and thank the supportive parents and guardians and grandparents and family and friends and everybody else who supports this class in this school. And of course, most importantly, we want to welcome and are so happy for and so proud of this awesome and distinguished class of 2021. And we want to thank all of you for being here today and being supportive of Rio Lindo Adventist Academy. Without your support, we would not have this institution. The Northern California Conference values a wonderful gift, that it's a legacy gift that's been given to the Adventist Church, and that is the gift of Adventist education. And we value that in the Northern California Conference. In our conference, we have 34 schools and over 2,000 students, of which these students that are graduating today are part of that. And so we believe in Adventist education. And what a wonderful privilege we have today of watching another class graduate that have come through this distinguished institution. And we recognize and we hold true to the values of what Ellen White mentioned many years ago, and that is true education is really about redemption and is the restoring and the harmonious development of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And we are stewards of that. We get to be stewards of that. So thank you for the value that you have placed on Adventist education. Thank you for the value of seeing your students, your children, your grandchildren, to recognize how valuable that is for their experience in life. And so with that in mind, I'm going to ask that we would stand together as we have our opening prayer. Our loving Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the blessings that you have given us. What a beautiful day we have here. Our hearts are filled with gratitude for your goodness and your grace to us. We have successfully finished another school year. Not a typical school year, a very unique school year, one that will go down in history. After coming through and still processing through a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, and yet, God, we are here, and we're grateful for that. Thank you for the experience of this year. You've taught us a lot. You've taught us that no matter what difficulties or circumstances or challenges there are, you are still faithful to your people. You are faithful to your church. You are faithful to students. You've been faithful to this school. God, we are grateful and we give you honor and we give you glory for this graduating class. We are so grateful, oh God, to see each of these students and this challenge and this big hallmark in their lives, this experience, this commencement as they move on to greater challenges, God. We pray that their Spirit of God will go with each and every one of them. So, Father, we pray that you would be in this service. We thank you for your presence in the precious and worthy name of Jesus. Let us all together say, Amen. 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 You may be seated. I want to just take a moment of privilege here just for one thing that's not here on the program. Many of you know by now that we are going to be losing our principal, who has been with us for the last 3 school years, Mr. Vic Anderson. And we are very, very sad to see him go, but we're also happy because he gets to enjoy retirement, which many of us look forward to one day. And so he has decided to make that challenge. But we just wanted to acknowledge just how much we've appreciated his service to Rio Lindo Adventist Academy. We could not have, this school would not be what it is without his contribution. He is an alumnus of this school, and it's one of the probably unique things, being principal here, being also an alumnus, so he knows where all the hiding places are in this school, and so that makes a good principal when you know that, right? And so we really appreciate it. Vic, I'm just going to ask you to come forward at this time. We want to acknowledge you, and we have a special gift for you. And I think your wife, LaVon, is here, and I'm going to ask her to come forward as well, because behind every successful man, or I should say on the side of every successful man, is a very accomplished woman. And so LaVon, come forward as well, because we want to thank you as well for your support. It's a wonderful team that has really served this school and this student body well. And I just want to say on behalf of not only the Board of Trustees, but also the Northern California Conference, we want to thank you just for your diligence and your service, your commitment to Adventist education. This wasn't your first and only experience with Adventist education, but you've hung in there. In fact, when we talked with you for the first time, you said that you'd probably stay for 2 years, and you've given us 3, so that was a bonus. We wanted you to stay for 23, and so you probably forgot that part of it. But thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for the sacrifice, too, we know that you made to be here. And we know that God has richly blessed your ministry, and you've left a wonderful legacy here. Though a very short time, you've left a legacy. And I want to tell you, you will never really know the full impact of your leadership and what you've done here in your ministry. I don't think you really know that until you're standing on the sea of glass and you hear the words of God say, "Well done, you've been a good and faithful servant." But I think also what's going to be very important to you is when you see one of your former students who's going to say, "Mr. Anderson, you may not remember me, but I'm here because of your ministry." That will be your richest legacy. So we want to thank you, and I've asked our superintendent of education to come forward. We have a very special gift for you, and he probably also wants to say a few words.
Yes, a few, very few. On behalf of the Education Department, I want to give you a small-sized gift, but a huge thank you for your years of service at Rio. In the best of times, sitting in that chair just around the corner is difficult. You've been through 3 years like nobody ever has at Rio. Fires, evacuations, pandemics. Yeah, but you've handled it with grace. You've handled it with outward calm. Emphasize the word outward. But just a huge thank you for the gift that you've given to this school, to the faculty and the students. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class of 2021 graduation. First off, I want to thank everyone who has helped us all to get here. Thank you to all the dedicated teachers and staff. You pushed us to learn and grow outside of our comfort zones. You made us laugh and sometimes cry, but in the end, you helped guide us towards this path that we called life and have pointed us to Jesus. And thank you to our friends that have supported us, laughed with us, cried with us, through the good and the bad, and through all the drama. I also want to thank our parents. You gave us life, directed our paths, put up with our emotional breakdowns and our delusions that we were smarter than you. You made sacrifices to give us the best lives you could and to allow us to attend Rio Lindo Academy. If you know me, you know that I really hate public speaking and I get really bad stage fright. And literally 5 minutes after I ran for class president and won, I was just like, what the heck have I just done? So I'm going to try my best not to pass out and hopefully not put anyone to sleep. We've had a very unique high school experience these past 4 years. Who would have known that when we stepped on this campus as little freshies on that hot August day in 2017, that we would experience severe wildfires, hospital trips, power outages, more fires, and then COVID. And if all that wasn't enough, just yesterday at 3 in the morning, Rio's campus lost power due to flooding. And it would not be a proper ending to our senior year if something didn't happen graduation weekend. Thinking back to freshman year, I have to laugh at some of the immature and embarrassing moments that some of us have experienced. Flossing had just become the latest craze, and for some of you older people here, I'm not talking about flossing your teeth. I'm talking about a viral dance move that's supposed to look like this. So we were at our class party freshman year, just hanging out. We just finished watching a movie, and almost everyone had gone inside, except for Emily, Brenna, and myself. And Brenna was harassing Emily and I because we didn't know how to floss. And she was like, how can you not know how to floss? Everyone needs to know how to floss. And proceeded to teach us. Emily and I were trying our best to coordinate our hips, and we're not very successful. And I know you all want a demonstration of what we actually looked like. My papers are flying away. Oh, I'm going to set that down there. So after we were like making fools of ourselves for like 5 minutes, I turn around and I just see Tamanaha standing in the next to the window, just like. So I go to Emily, who's right next to me, and I'm like, Tamanaha's been watching us the whole time. We collapse on the floor laughing, and Brenna, being her completely oblivious self, continues to floss, showing us how to do it right. Then she turns around, sees Tamanaha there, and is just like, oh. It was so embarrassing. One of my favorite memories at Rio has always been football weekend. Ever since my oldest brothers started attending Rio, I've looked forward to this event every year. I especially love Saturday night games where we sprayed our hair green and showed our school spirit by screaming at the top of our lungs. If you know the cheer, whether you're out in the audience or in our class, please join me. Go green! Go white! Go hard! Go fight! Oh! 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 So freshman year, we played our games and we had a great time. And all of our parents and the students visiting from other schools went home, and that night, life changed for many in our community. That night, the wind started howling, and that night, the Tubbs fire started. It burned down Redwood Adventist School and destroyed parts of Santa Rosa. It burned down some of our classmates' home, and just like that, we went from a weekend filled with school spirit to one of shock and loss. Because of the unbearable smoke and anxiety that the situation caused, we were sent home for a week. I remember riding the bus past acres of charred fields and burned out stores. Some lost all their material possessions, and some lost more. It makes you think about what is important in life. Nothing here on this earth will last forever. But good did come from this tragedy. The students from Redwood Academy joined our class. We met new friends and were able to show our community support by helping out our sister school. And Luis and Elizabeth, I'm so happy that we have you guys in our class, and it wouldn't be the same without you. I wish that we could say that that was the only fire experience that we had at Rio, but it was not. To prevent future wildfires, the electric company started shutting off the electricity during high wind events. So here I was, junior year, sitting in the dorm hallways using a lamp that the dean had set out in the hallway so it wouldn't be pitch black, trying to do my homework. I was concentrating on my Algebra 2 homework when I heard girls starting screaming and running up and down the hall. Fire! We saw an explosion! We're gonna die! I walked over to the window and I could see a distant fire, and then there was another explosion. The girls kept screaming and running hysterically up and down the halls, and the deans did their best to calm them down. They had already been talking to the fire department, and the fire was far away, and they would tell us if we needed to evacuate. And I had homework to do, so I didn't have time for this drama. I was just sitting there in the middle of the floor, diligently trying to get my work done, with the girls running and screaming frantically. And seeing me sitting there, they're like, "We're gonna die," and Gabby's just doing her homework. The fire crept closer over the next couple of days, so out of an abundance of caution, the administration decided to send us home for a quote-unquote a few days. So I packed a couple of outfits in a backpack, and we were sent home. But it was not a few days. The fire grew closer, and even the die-hard faculty had to leave. Many prayers were prayed, and angels surrounded our school. Just as it reached our campus, the fire made a turn and went around. With the help of dedicated firefighters, we were eventually able to return to campus once the power and gas were restored, 2 weeks later. Junior year continued. We celebrated Thanksgiving and then Christmas. And back at Rio, we started hearing rumors about a tiny little virus called COVID-19 from someplace in China. That was the first time I had even heard the name Wuhan. We had already missed a lot of school with the fire, so faculty started talking about trying out Google Meet and Zoom just in case we had to be evacuated again. Well, we all know how the rest of the year went, and pretty much most of this year. Our lives were shifted and turned upside down. But it is the good times we will remember. The class parties where we watched movies at Tamanaha's or Izzy's house, and then tried to electrocute each other with electric shock toys. Going to Lake Sonoma for Lake Day, canoeing down the river and swinging on the rope swing, going to the beach and watching Connor standing on a rock and then getting soaked by a huge wave, and then the look of shock on his face afterwards. Going paintballing with our class, and I know that some of us still have serious bruises, and poor Angie looks like she was abused. Even her own teammate, I won't mention any names, but Allie kept accidentally shooting her. We definitely have some trigger-happy classmates. And there's also the satisfaction of struggling to write Yingling's essays and finally getting it right, and also taking his famous clicker quizzes. Then there was the thrill of parenting. The storks delivered to each of us an adorable electronic bundle of joy. I will never forget the senior baby project. Sitting in Mr. Richards' class when Brenna's baby started crying and she couldn't get it to be quiet. Finally, Mr. Richards told her to take the baby out of class, and then moments later, everyone else's baby started crying. Poor Mr. Richards didn't have a chance. In the end, I walked out of the class and asked my classmates, gotta find one of my papers because they all got messed up. I asked my classmates, like, what did we learn today? Because I had no idea, and neither did anyone else. I will not deny it was a huge relief to give those babies back. As several classmates mentioned, class trip to Albion was a blast. Going to the beach, playing football, and if you're here for church, you heard the story about Gabe digging himself into a hole. And then it was also entertaining for me to watch Allie guarding that hole to the death. No one was going to touch that hole. And just sitting around the fire, talking, laughing, and listening to music was such a great bonding time for me and my classmates. We've had so many experiences together, some good, some bad, and some somewhere in between. There have been so many that I could never mention them all. All these experiences has helped us to grow into the people we are today. And it's when we spend those moments together, whether it's having fun, struggling through something, that we really become like a family. And while sometimes it has seemed like it would never end, and I'm sure we've all faced senioritis, we've all made it to the end of this journey called high school. Even though this is a very exciting moment for us, it is also very scary and sad as we all go our separate ways. We all have different paths ahead of us. As we go into a new phase in our lives, we will face more challenges. As we gain more freedom to make our own decisions, we will make mistakes and we'll have to face the consequences of those decisions. But this struggle will help us grow. There's a parable of a young boy who went to his grandfather one day and proudly announced, "I'm going to be very successful when I grow up. Can you give me any tips on how to get there?" The grandfather nodded and without saying a word, took the boy by the hand and walked him to a nearby plant nursery. There, the two of them chose and purchased 2 small saplings. They returned home and planted one of them in the backyard. The other sapling was placed in a pot and kept indoors. "Which of these do you think will be most successful in the future?" asked the grandfather. The boy thought for a minute, and then he said, "The indoor tree is protected and safe, while the other one has to cope with the elements." The grandfather shrugged his shoulders and said, "We'll see." The grandfather carefully tended both plants, and in a few years, the boy, now a teenager, came to visit again. "You never really answered my question from when I was a young boy. How can I become successful when I grow up?" he asked. The old man showed the teenager the indoor tree and then took him outside to have a look at the towering tree outside. "Which one is greater?" the grandfather asked. "The outside one. But that doesn't make any sense. It has to cope with many more challenges than the inside one." The grandfather nodded. Yes, but the risk of dealing with the challenges is worth it, as it has freedom to spread its roots wider and its leaves towards the heaven. Boy, remember this, and you will be successful in whatever you do. If you choose the safe option all your life, you will never grow and be all that you can be. But if you're willing to face the world head-on with all of its dangers and challenges, the sky's the limit. As the young man looked up at the tall tree, he took a deep breath and nodded his head, knowing that his wise grandfather was right. This same is true for all of us. If we choose the safe, well-worn path, then we won't be able to grow as people. But if we go out and face challenges, sometimes fail and sometimes succeed, we don't ever give up, but keep moving forward, we will get stronger and grow as people. In the time we have spent at Rio, whether it was 4 years or 1, we've had to cope with many challenges, but the experiences that we've had helped shape us into the people we are today and will help guide us towards the people we will be in the future. Rio has helped to develop roots and begin to grow into mature, beautiful trees. Rio has done what it could to challenge us, teach us, and prepare us for the future. As we make our decisions of what we are going to do next, I want to challenge everyone to push yourselves to meet your goals and don't ever give up after the first, second, 20th, or 5,000th failure. But what I really want to challenge you to do is strengthen your relationship with God. Be intentional about spending time with Him, and don't make your prayers just be, "Dear Jesus, thank you for the food, amen." There is something that I've heard my dad say several times, and one of my friends also brought the same thing up this year in the chapel talk. When you pray, pray dangerous prayers. Say a prayer that could only be answered if God were there, and don't be afraid to ask God for the impossible. Because our God is a miracle worker, and with God all things are possible. There's one thing that I believe that Rio wanted us to leave here with, and is this theme that we've had for this past month. You seniors know what it is. Say it with me. God is ever near. That was weak. We need to say that again. Okay, God is ever near. He was near us when we were born, when we came to Rio as scared little freshies, and as sophomores, juniors, and seniors. He was near us as we faced the challenges and fun times at Rio. He will be near us as we go our separate ways. As we face more challenges that will make us grow, like the trees in the story, He'll be there to water us, give us sunshine, and make it through stormy weather. Grow your roots in Him and reach your branches up towards heaven, and let's all meet again soon at the Tree of Life.
Oh, mine, it's loud. Hello, everyone. My name's Paul, if you didn't read the bulletin. Paul Dompis, as a matter of fact. Oh, wow. Today I'll be singing a song in my language. It's about time, and it's that whatever you're going through, just know that God is always there and that His time is perfect. So I hope you enjoy this song, and I hope I don't mess up. Bila kau izinkan sesuatu terjadi, ku percaya semua untuk kebaikanku. Bila nanti telah tiba waktumu, ku percaya kuasamu memulihkan hidupku. Waktu Tuhan pasti yang terbaik, walau kadang tak mudah dimengerti. Lewati cobaan, ku tetap percaya waktu Tuhan pasti yang terbaik. Tuhan pasti yang terbaik, walau kadang tak mudah dimengerti. Lewati cobaan, ku tetap percaya waktu Tuhan pasti yang terbaik. Waktu Tuhan pasti yang terbaik.
At this time, we would like to honor some students, some seniors, for outstanding, I just can't do this. I'm sorry. We want to honor some seniors for their outstanding accomplishments in many different areas, academic, leadership, and I have several staff members that are going to help me with this. Traditionally, we have done this on our class night, on Saturday night, but of course, we didn't want to skip this part, important part of graduation, so we are including it in our commencement service. So at this time, I'd like to, our first person is Mr. Robert Pappas, is going to present an award.
Good morning. This morning I'm honored to present an award to Brenna Richards for outstanding creativity in art and design.
when most students decide to take a shop class, then they're just getting interested in whatever that shop class is. Nathan came in with an already developed set of skills, and he was a natural leader in my classes. 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, his sophomore year, when we were building the front gate, Nathan took charge and he led his class. He knew exactly what to do. In auto tech, it's almost like having a second instructor in the classroom. He has such a skill set. So presenting this award for, in recognition of his exceptional aptitude and skill in industrial arts, to Nathan Pravat.
There's many scholars here, but this is for the area of mathematics. We'd like to present this award to a person who all 4 years pushed me as a teacher. Last year before COVID hit, they brought some material in. They asked me if I could help them with it. And I had to fake my way through it. Now they know, but they came and asked about set theory because their parents told them they should study this. And I scratched my head and I was like, oh, yeah, you do this, this, and this. And they probably thought I was lying, but I was. So anyways, we'd like to present this award to Rico.
Good morning. We had many outstanding science students, and we had many, many very creative science students who found ways, even from home, to be able to do some amazing things, and I was very impressed with many of them. We had one that was above and beyond, one that was sometimes doing laps around me intellectually in the classroom, and that was always available to help other students and to collaborate really, really well, and that was E.J. Romero.
Every so often, a student shows up in class that teachers can be a little bit jealous of. This is one of those students. This student, if it needed to be said, he could speak it. If it needed to be written, he could write it. And then in addition to that, here's where the jealousy comes in. I always justified my incompetence on anything mechanical with my ability to deal with words. But for this particular student, as you already found out, if it needs to be fixed, he can fix it. For excellence in English, I'd like to present this award to Nathan Pravat.
In social studies, it covers a lot of areas, and not only academically, but also in other areas. And this award for this particular student not only did really well in the social studies area and all the other areas, but also kept me on my toes. Also, this student was very able to get himself involved in leadership as well on this campus. You know, social studies, you know, government, politics, and I kind of like that area. And so I want to give this to E.J. Romero.
And now as a group, we're giving a very special award. And you can see there are several of us here, so this means we're looking at several different areas. And when I think of this student, I think of two things. Obviously, academic excellence. But the second thing that I think of is just a joy of learning and of life. And it's just like a little bit of sunshine comes into the classroom every time this person entered. So excellence and joy.
I would just add to that and say there are very few people who have the ability to walk into a classroom on and just ready to go, and this person always did that every day. They would come sometimes with the strangest questions. I was thinking about this and just wondering, and then some weird question would come out. It was glorious. I loved every moment of teaching this person.
And also in the social studies area, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things going on, and this person was very important in knowing what was going on around them, as you have seen.
This award, like everybody has said, everything and more about this person because they are that person. They make us want to be better people. So we'd want to present this award to Gabby Balance.
Stay here. Come back. Stay up here, please. In addition to the awards from Rio, Iota Sigma Pi is a National Honor Society for Women in Chemistry. Every year, they recognize a handful of the very top female chemistry students in the country. This year, there were 45 awards in the entire United States, and one of them goes to Gabby Balance.
So it's been an interesting past couple of years with performing arts and COVID. We had to take our getting together and being able to sing and perform together in person and the joy that comes with that, with growing as a musician and as a student and as a teacher, and put it online. And I wanted to acknowledge the students who stuck with it, who took that challenge and turned it into joy with such integrity and with talent. The Performing Arts Excellence in Performance Award is given to one student from all performing arts classes. The student who is honored with this award stands out not only for their talent and personal growth, but also for their integrity, work ethic, leadership skills, and commitment to performance. This year, these awards go to, for Lindare's, Paul Dompus. And for orchestra, Rico. And for drama, Emily Barnhart. Emily has also been one of those students who chose, through her 4-year career here at Rio, every semester to take a performing arts class. So she was always taking some sort of performance class. And so, let's see, this is a medallion to honor her commitment to performing arts.
What a class that we have here. As you guys are finding out, this is a special class. Not only a smart class, but a very active and athletic class. 21 out of the 28 students participated in varsity sports during their first 3 years here. That's 75% of the class. While they were here, they helped the girls' volleyball team reach the second round of playoffs for only the second time in school history. The boys' basketball team continued to finish their streak of PUC finals, keep them going at 6 and active. And this year, while we were not able to hold traditional sports, we did have sports for people that were in the dorm and on campus. We had a volleyball camp where the students participated with the coaches for 7 long days of practice, followed that with intramurals, and then an all-star game against the staff on Saturday night. After track and field day, they played a short field soccer game, juniors and freshmen against the sophomores and seniors. Seniors won that game and won the track and field day. Then during the last week of school, the boys said they wanted to play a basketball game one last time against the staff, and they said, let's make this a fun game with the seniors. And even Matthew Barragon got out there and was dominant on the court. Lo and behold, they were able to come back from a second half deficit. Sorry, Levis, not like the Lakers. They were able to come back, and they beat the staff at the end. Let's talk a little bit about these senior athletes before I give Athlete of the Year awards. No one spent more time in their gym practicing and crafting their skills to become the most improved basketball player in their 4 years than Isai. Kiala has the most natural ability in the class. It doesn't matter what sport it was, even if she was playing it for the first time, she was good at it. She was the MVP of the volleyball team sophomore and junior year and helped them to the playoffs each of those years. Let's talk about Connor. It doesn't really matter where we went. We could have been at PUC for a tournament or all the way down at Modesto. There was always people cheering for Connor. They weren't cheering for Rio. You look over, and there was always a handful of girls cheering for Connor. Their sophomore year, we had an outdoor fall festival. I set up a golf challenge. Whoever could get close to the target could win a t-shirt or sweatshirts. I think David Zamarone took about 10 shirts from me that day. Secret golf talent. Next up is Linda. I've never met such a sweet girl who turned into such a ferocious beast on the basketball court. I don't think a single person in this audience could get a rebound from her. On the football field, Emily and Brenna were known as the dynamic duo as rushers. Every time Emily would dive for a flag, she sacrificed her whole body. Thinking she was hurt, I'd be looking at her and she'd stand up with a smile on her face. Now, Athlete of the Year. This award is given based on their 4 years at Rio, including their senior season when they were playing intramurals and involved with camp and track and field. The winners receive a $500 scholarship for college tuition. This year, the female Athlete of the Year played all of the sports she could. She just wants to play, even if it's against the boys. She trained and ran 10Ks and trained for a half marathon. She played football, basketball, soccer, and participated in volleyball this year during camp. During track and field day, she gathered more individual points for her class than any other student. She was always up for a competition, and this year's Athlete of the Year goes to Gabby Balance. For the male Athlete of the Year, this award goes to someone who has been the best leader in my 11 years at Rio. He gets everyone involved as a great athlete. He led the football team last year to almost a perfect season, 1 loss. He played on the varsity basketball team since his sophomore year and is a leader on the boys volleyball team. This year he contacted me when he was at home and wanted to do workouts to get faster and stronger. And the only time that worked for us was at 7 o'clock in the morning. So while his parents were getting ready to go to work, he was in the living room. While my kids were sleeping and just waking up, I'd be on a Zoom call right there in the living room. Every day we worked out at 7 o'clock. When he came onto campus, He wanted to start a fitness club. So instead of doing the mornings, which we both didn't really like, we went to the afternoons, and he gathered 10 to 18 people every single day to come work out with us on a voluntary basis. Because of his athletic ability and his forward thinking to get more people involved in health and fitness, this year's Athlete of the Year is EJ Romero. All right, moving on to attendance. For attendance, we gave these awards out in a chapel earlier, but we want to recognize the seniors for attendance here. So we're going to ask these people to stand for a round of applause. We have 3 people that got exemplary attendance all years. That means they had nothing unexcused. So they had no absences, no tardies that were not excused. And those 3 people, we'd like you to stand, and we'll give you applause at the end. But it's a tremendous job, even during COVID times, to get perfect attendance, essentially. So here we go. 3 people is Nathan Pervat, Emily Barnhart, and EJ Romero.
Good morning. Each year, the Rio Academy awards one girl a Woman of the Year award. While all of our seniors probably deserve this award, we did only get to choose one, and this year we chose Linda Murray.
Living in a boys' dorm is a very, very interesting lifestyle. We are never bored, I can tell you that much. There are actually 4 young men that we would like to recognize today. The first 3 were RAs this year, and they did some very exciting things. They got to plan events like an in-person version of the popular game Among Us. They were the ones who every single night made sure all the boys were in the dorm, which meant the 3 of us could go to sleep peacefully. But then they also did some very unflattering things, such as sanitizing and disinfecting bathrooms and showers that, again, are used by teenage boys. Yes. But then these 3 individuals did something that I've never really seen before. They started asking for books on spirituality that they could read. And as they were reading them, they became so excited with all the knowledge that they were gaining that they began to share it with their peers in classes, in chapels that we have in the dorm, or just casual conversations. And so we would like to acknowledge these 3 young men. We gave them already certificates at the awards chapel that was mentioned before, but the 3 men we would like to acknowledge, and if you could come down when I say your names, are Connor, Isai, and Paul. The last person we want to recognize was also an RA, so everything that we just said, he also participated in. But he was so much more than just that. He was this year's SA president, and he made it his personal responsibility to make sure that each and every single one of the students felt loved and accepted here at Rio. He was a big brother to the younger men that we have in the dorm and helped mentor them and guide them to be, what he now is. He also just made sure everybody was included no matter what was going on. And my favorite thing about him is he is everybody's biggest cheerleader. It doesn't matter what's going on, he is the main person clapping for everybody in all the successes that they're having. So we would like to recognize this year's Man of the Year, EJ Romero. We didn't have a big check but we gave EJ something that he really enjoys, a gift card to his favorite boba spot. So thank you, all four of you gentlemen.
It is my pleasure to present the last award. Every year, the Pacific Union Conference sponsors an award they call the Caring Heart Award. This is given to somebody who has exhibited leadership and witnessing and who exhibits a caring attitude toward all of the students here on campus. This year's award comes with a $500 gift certificate to one of our Adventist colleges. And the recipient this year is going to be, by the way, there was not a lot of discussion about this. It was a pretty quick and easy decision. Linda Murray.
Since we're now graduating, I think we can go by a first name basis. So I'm going to introduce the man who needs no introduction, Bruce Yingling.
Well, class, what a year, huh? You may have had a few unexpected challenges, but look at it this way. You're famous. No one will ever forget worldwide 2021. And parents and friends, I'd also like to thank you for your support before I jump into the formal speech. And one thing I think you maybe picked up, we have a bunch of leaders here. And a school goes as a senior class goes. And they set the tone for the whole year. And if the seniors are rebellious and not into spirituality, then somehow that's a tough year from day one to the end. But this particular group, they led, and they led well even during difficult times. So thank yourselves for raising a great group of kids. They're pretty special, and I feel really honored that they would allow me to speak to them today. And I consider this a real privilege because I know you were torn. If you picked me, I'd use every minute I could. And maybe if you chose someone else, you could get your diploma quicker. I do say that I cut 1,000 words from my talk, but I just couldn't cut anymore. So I'd like to go ahead and start. And again, thank you for being you, and thank you for being in my class, and thank you for being my friends. It has been an interminably long 40 days as the excited graduates wait impatiently for the news from their teachers that will launch a highly anticipated new stage in their lives. A stage with new opportunities, more independence, and hopefully greater comforts. Ever since Moses led them out of Egypt, the children of Israel's emotions have been on a roller coaster of spiritual highs as God saves them from one crisis after another, contrasted with spirit-crushing lows as they continually doubt that God will rescue them from the current mess they find themselves immersed in. At times, their principal, Moses, actually has had to beg God to continue supporting the school of the wilderness with its fickle and unappreciative students. Of course, that doesn't apply to you guys. By now, electric anticipation is surging through the camp. Word is filtered back that the 12 spies sent to scout out the land of Canaan will be returning today. Eager mothers start cooking celebratory feasts. Ambitious husbands get a head start on the packing. assuming Moses will give the command to break camp within the next day or two. And excited children pester their parents with questions about their new home. Suddenly, the shrill blast of a ram's horn summons the assembly together in front of the tabernacle. Graduation is about to take place. But sadly, only two people pass God's final test of faith. The two spies, Caleb and Joshua. We pick up the story in Deuteronomy 13:30. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We can't attack these people. They're stronger than we are." And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there were of great size. We saw Nephilim there." And again, that was interesting when I was looking at this, that's translated giants, but it's also in some translations demons or evil spirits. "We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them." Once word of the giants spread, the people cowered in fear, and despair smothered the camp like a heavy blanket of fog. After all, who can fight a giant and come out victorious? Seniors, you know there are a lot of giants in the land. You've had to deal with one who greatly impacted the end of last year and all of this one. The first major pandemic in the United States since the Spanish flu of 1918 to 1920. COVID has taught all of us that life can change dramatically with little or no warning. But you hung in there. You dealt with the fear, the social isolation, the boredom of not being able to go anywhere, the hours of staring at a computer screen for online classes. Today, we are celebrating your perseverance and the hope that life will return to normal soon. I wish I could, but I can't promise you that life after COVID will be an unending series of trophies, an easy stroll down a shaded and smooth path toward prosperity and success, an uninterrupted series of exhilarating highs like this weekend, and I'm certainly glad that we have this weekend together. I can promise you, though, you will face many giants throughout your life, some fiercer than others. You are leaving Rio and entering a world where problems are growing and solutions seem to be slipping out of reach. You and your families face economic uncertainty as nations try to spin themselves out of economic collapse caused by COVID. As of April, the United States had $28 trillion of debt. Or, to put it in simpler terms, you all owe $85,000 that you didn't know that you owed. And someday, somewhere, sometime, that debt has to be paid. And sadly, it seems that Congress is adding to the debt every bill that comes before them. Again, the giant of economic challenge. Another giant is roaming the land, and that is the potential of an environmental disaster. Driving electric cars may help a little, but it won't solve the numerous crises we face as an expanding world population competes for limited resources. John Beddington, England's chief scientific advisor, highlighted the challenges we face. He predicted that by 2030, the world will need to produce around 50% more food and energy together with 30% more fresh water. He went on to add that this threatens to create a perfect storm of global events. The challenge of increasing energy production and at the same time reducing carbon emissions to slow global climate change could be insurmountable. And sadly, instead of bringing us together, the stress and uncertainty of the modern world is creating growing tensions and strife. Strife between nations, strife between social classes, strife between races, strife between political parties, and yes, at times, sadly, even strife within the church. Of particular concern is the giant of racial intolerance and racial conflict. Our nation united in shock and horror as we all saw the video of a handcuffed man begging for his life while a callous and cruel policeman left his knee pressed against the man's neck for the longest 8 minutes ever recorded. Sadly, though, both sides of the political spectrum are using the issue of race to leverage power and money, and we seem to be drifting further away from Martin Luther King's dream of a world where people are not judged by the color of their skin, but rather by the content of their characters. Social media and 24-hour news outlets are continuing to pour fuel on the fires of dissension and conflict, and the results are not good for our country. A new Rasmussen Reports national telephone and online survey finds that only 24% of American adults believe race relations in the nation today, are good or excellent. Graduates, you are also entering a world where, paraphrasing 1 Peter 5:8, your enemy, the devil, prowls like a roaring giant looking for someone to devour. Religious intolerance and persecution are growing exponentially across the world. In just this past year, there have been over 340 million Christians living in places where they experience high levels of persecution and discrimination. 4,761 Christians killed for their faith. 4,488 churches and other Christian buildings attacked. 4,277 believers detained without trial, arrested, sentenced, or imprisoned. And even here in the United States, outright disdain for those professing belief in the Bible and its standards of morality is being taught in America's classrooms and has permeated all the entertainment media, leading to an increase in both religious intolerance and, probably even sadder, religious indifference. In 1999, 70% of Americans were affiliated with a specific church. But in 2020, church affiliation dropped below 50% for the first time in U.S. history. And it seems to be the more we need church, the fewer of us are attending it. Along with a decline in religious faith is a corresponding decline in traditional Christian values. 86% of college students say they've cheated. And perhaps even more frightening, 54% feel that it's perfectly justified because you need to cheat in order to succeed. Over 2/3 of Americans feel that casual sex between consenting adults is sometimes or always acceptable. And half of Christians actually agree. And the movement to legalize recreational drugs is growing and achieving legislative victories in state after state. Right now, just popped up on the news feed, the California legislature is attempting to decriminalize psychedelic drugs, even including the drug that is used for date rape. So seniors, today I want to share 3 ways that you can face the giants in your future and come out victorious. First, don't give up and give in to modern culture, which offers no purpose and no hope for the future. On October 29, 1941, Winston Churchill addressed the students at the Harrow School, an exclusive all-boys military school in England. This short speech has gone down in lore as one of the most memorable graduation addresses ever given. At the time of the speech, England was just emerging from the onslaught of the Nazi Blitz. Beginning in September of 1940, London was bombed 57 straight nights, and the heavy bombing continued throughout England until May of the next year. Every night, the heroic and heavily outnumbered Spitfire fighter pilots of the RAF took to the skies to battle the waves of Luftwaffe bombers and their accompanying German Messerschmitt fighters. And sadly, every morning the British people dug themselves out of the rubble of their homes and businesses and buried their dead. What everyone remembers from Churchill's speech is not the opening or even the conclusion, but rather the lines in the middle when he tells the students the important lesson to be learned from the challenges of war. Churchill said, "Never give in. Never, 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 in nothing, great or small, large or petty. Never give in, except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy." So seniors, don't give in and, like the typical American teenager, spend 9 hours a day on a screen, exerting more time and effort fighting mythical giants in video games than you do preparing to fight the real giants that are out there, mocking you, your families, your country, and your world. Stand up for your faith in God. Don't let anyone tell you that you aren't good enough, smart enough, rich enough to achieve your dreams. And as Churchill said, never give up. After all, Edison took 10,000 attempts to create a light bulb. Dyson, 5,126 tries before he made a bagless vacuum cleaner. Michael Jordan was dropped from his high school basketball team. And no major university recruited Steph Curry. They thought he was too small and not athletic enough to play on the big stage. Now here is my next word of advice. As Voltaire points out in his famous satire, Candide, which some of you read, which bitterly describes all the cruelty, bigotry, and greed in the world, you can't solve all of the world's problems, but you can tend your own garden and to make a difference in your own sphere of influence. You may not be able to eliminate racism and intolerance, but you can certainly be tolerant and call out intolerance and racism whenever you see it. In one of the most memorable scenes from the classic novel To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch, the main character, tells his daughter the key to getting along with others. If you can learn a simple trick, Scout, you'll get along a lot better with all kinds of folks. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. One of the reasons that I thoroughly enjoy working at Rio is the diversity of the students and the family that we become each school year. So seniors, take the unity we have here and use that spirit to fight the disunity that's out there. And as you tend your own garden, you may not become famous and change the world, but on the other hand, perhaps you will, and maybe even sooner rather than later. A 16-year-old Dutch teenager, Boyan Slat, was depressed when on a diving trip to Greece, he saw more plastic bags than he did fish.
After researching the topic and finding out how much plastic was clogging up the world's streams, rivers, and oceans, Boyan figured out a way to solve the problem. At the age of 18, he designed the world's first ocean plastic cleanup system, formed a company, and after 5.5 years of hard work, his invention was used to tackle the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a mass of plastic twice the size of Texas floating between California and Hawaii. Excuse me. The prototype had problems because it lost some of the garbage that it collected. But since then, the first model has been improved, and Boyan's nonprofit organization is clearing plastic from waterways throughout the world. All of this progress just because one teenager saw a problem and he wanted to do something to help fix it. And then finally, and most importantly, trust God and let him fight the giants for you. Or as Carrie Underwood croons in her country music hit, let Jesus take the wheel. According to the version of the 12 spies found in Numbers, neither God nor Moses felt the need to send spies to check out the land. The people were the ones that wanted to find out ahead of time what they were facing. God's plan was for them to enter the land and for him to defeat the giants. For God's promises are true, and he had promised that the land would be theirs. All they needed to do was to accept him at his word. Now I want to share with you the story of one of the most amazing men that I've ever read about. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but his name, she simply goes by Mully. And there's an award-winning documentary about his life that he narrates that I strongly recommend you Google and watch. And I'd like to share that story with you right now. And the reason I want to share the story of Mully with you is because he exemplifies all three of the points that I made. He made a difference in his world, he never gave up, and he trusted God in everything. By any standards, 6-year-old Mully had a miserable life. He lived in extreme poverty in one of the most desolate parts of Kenya. His alcoholic father was abusive, and Mully remembers him beating his mother as she screamed. But one morning, life got even worse. He woke up, and no one was there. I realized I was completely alone, abandoned, he recounts. For the next 10 years, he survived by begging and stealing. Then he reached a low point and decided to take his life. But just when he was ready to give up, a young man invited him to church where the pastor preached on forgiveness. And then closing his sermon by saying, "Work hard, and by faith, there is nothing impossible before God." Mully took the pastor at his word, and the next morning he began a 3.5-day walk to Nairobi to begin a new life. He started by knocking on doors until a kind lady offered to give him some small jobs and permission to eat the leftover food off of the family's plates. From that small beginning, Mully's perseverance and hard work paid off, and he became one of the richest persons in Kenya. Let's put it this way, he had multiple businesses, and he had control of the distribution of all the natural gas and oil for the whole nation. By that time, everything was terrific. He had a loving wife and 9 children. And he was living the good life. He had a big house, fancy cars, servants, terrific family vacations. And on the video, his daughter says they called him the Great Gatsby of Kenya. One day, while he was on his way to a business meeting, Mully was confronted by street boys who demanded money to, quote, protect his parked car. He refused, and when he returned after his meeting, his car was gone. Instead of stressing over the stolen car, all he could think about was those street boys and the overwhelming guilt that he had for not being willing to give them something. I saw the faces of me, he said. I saw myself, and something tormented my heart. He went to work the next day but could not work. He left the office and just started driving, not knowing where he was going. I found myself far away and then stopped my car and started crying, questioning God and asking, why have you done this to me? He said he struggled with God for 4 hours, just like Jacob wrestled with God one whole night. At that point, Mully says, God took me down. I said, yes, God used me. The moment I said, yes, God, I got the greatest joy in my heart. He went home and told his family that after much prayer, he decided he would never work for money again. And he was compelled by God to sell everything and start rescuing Kenya's street children. Even though his family and friends thought he was crazy, Mully started going out into the streets in the middle of the night searching for children he could rescue and bring home. With a literal mob of street children moving into their home to begin with, there was total and complete chaos. And his own kids resented that chaos. Eventually, he had over 100 children in his house. Even then, Mully still went out into the streets and brought more. To accommodate all the children, he taught the children how to work and began building additions onto his home, as well as dormitories, taking out the lawn, taking out the pool, taking every spare inch of land that they had. Now, with no income, as Mully continued rescuing kids, every year the bank account grew smaller and smaller until he actually reached the point that there was not one penny, I guess it would have been shelling there, left in the bank. His wife came to him and she said, honey, what can I do? We don't have any more food left. And he simply looked at her and calmly said, why are you asking me where we're going to get food? Don't you remember what I said? You ask God. Pray. His wife started weeping, pleading with God and asking him what she was going to do with all these hungry children. Then, out of nowhere, the bell at the gate rang, and a lady that they did not know showed up with a whole truckload of food and an envelope with 5,000 shillings to use when that food ran out. Mully said he was speechless because at the instant they ran out of money, God sent the very first donation they received. As time passed, each day the children became more responsive, more obedient, more of a true family. Every child called Mully and his wife mother and father, and Mully's own children became a little less resentful and started to begin accepting the growing family. Mully had to provide his kids everything: shelter, food and clothing, and education, practical job skills, and ultimately love and hope for a better future. And sadly, he even had to provide them church, because he started taking the kids to the church, and the elders of the church got together and they told him, you can't bring, these kids are disruptive. We don't want them in church. And so they said, you either have to leave, quit coming with the kids, or you're out of the church. So he says, I'm out of the church. Eventually, there was no available space to house even one more child. But instead of stopping and saying, I've done enough, Mully came up with a new plan: move the whole family to some land he owned in the country and build a new life for everyone there. the Mully family left the civilization of Nairobi and drove in buses to a desolate, barren land with nothing but dry dirt and a few shacks with tin roofs. The family reached a crisis when, during a nationwide drought, a nearby river began to dry up. And that river was their only water source. And the water left in the few stagnant pools was rife with disease. After some children died from the foul water, even though they boiled it, Mully cried to God for water. God, he said, you haven't given me all these children just to let them die. A few nights later, while he was praying, Mully felt prompted by God to walk in a straight line from the house and then turn. And that was the spot where they would find water. They prayed over that spot, and the next morning, Mully told some workers to start digging. And they did, but reluctantly, because they'd already drilled several times over 100 feet for water and come up dry every time. And this time, they just simply took shovels and picks and started a hole in the ground. After 2 days, they reached solid rock, and his kids were part of the project. They were among the few that he told had to keep digging, so they kept digging. Giving up at that point, his sons went to their father and said, what should we do now? We haven't found water and we can't dig any deeper. Mully responded, I was shown water is here, so keep on digging. One of the students took a pick and struck the rock. Remind you of a story anywhere? And all of a sudden, water came gushing out. This miracle, for as Mully's daughter explained, it had to be a miracle because there was not one other well in the whole area. Inspired Mully's own children to begin completely trusting him and trusting God. And from that point on, they dedicated the rest of their lives to helping Mully's children's family outreach. With his indomitable spirit and undying faith in God, Mully, with the help of all the children, gradually turned this barren wilderness with a few tin shacks into a beautiful compound with stone and brick buildings, and the land itself into beautiful gardens with enough fruits and vegetables to help support the family financially, as well as provide food for the continually growing family, which now included over 2,000 children. Through the years, all of the trees and crops planted by Mully literally changed the microclimate of the entire area and brought more rain. And that barren wilderness is now truly a land flowing with milk and honey. Mully's children's family outreach has now expanded to several countries, and over 100,000 children have been rescued from the streets. And interestingly, a number of the kids that he rescued have set up their own rescue centers. So what can one person who never gives up, who tends his or her own garden and does what God says and trusts him, try these principles out in your own life and find out what the answer is. And now I would like to close with a challenge for you. My apologies to Maya Angelou, a famous African-American poet. In fact, I just saw in the news she's one of 2 women that will be on a quarter. Her face will be on the quarter, and she wrote this poem. Well, I stole her idea and wrote my own poem for you. So her poem was Still I Rise. I titled your version, Still We Rise. You can attack us on social media and tell us we're not any good, belittle our dreams and disparage our abilities, mock our religious faith, and laugh at our morals. But still, like Phoenix himself, we'll rise from the ashes. You can terrify us with news of impending doom and tempt us with chemicals to chase away the gloom. Try to inflame us with hatred for those different from us. Burn us with jealousy for money we don't have. But still, like Caleb and Joshua, we'll stand up against the naysayers. You can discourage us with thoughts that there's no way to help. Drown us in entertainment to wash away the pain. Isolate us in bubbles where everyone's the same. but like David, when confronted by a giant, will rise. And when the giants appear victorious and evil seems to have prevailed, our brother and Redeemer will come down to save us, and we'll rise from the darkness to the glory of heaven, never to fall again. Seniors, when you get discouraged because the giants seem to be winning, remember that in the end, God will be victorious. And he wants you to share in this victory. As Isaiah 51:6 states, lift up your eyes to the heavens, look at the earth beneath. The heavens will vanish like smoke, the earth will wear out like a garment, and its inhabitants die like flies. And then here's the good part. Otherwise, this text would be pretty discouraging. But my salvation will last forever. My righteousness will never fail. Thank you for being such a great class.
Before we get ready to present diplomas, I wanted to give a few stats about this class. First of all, there are a total of 29 seniors, 10 girls, 19 guys. Four of our seniors are international students coming from China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And unfortunately, many of them could not be with us today. 20 of the 29 seniors are four-year club members. If you're four-year club members, stand up. Let's see you. Okay, that's 69% of the class, and you'll notice that they're wearing white cords. All right, you guys have a seat. You will also notice that some students are marching with silver cords. These silver cords represent a cumulative GPA of 3.25 to 3.74. And by cumulative, I mean from the beginning of freshman year until now. So we have 7 seniors who are graduating with silver cords. I will announce that individually later, but I would like for you 7 to stand so we can recognize you. There are some seniors that are graduating with gold cords. That represents a cumulative GPA of 3.75 to 4.0. Now, just so you get a sense of what that really means, when I look at their transcript, they have mostly A's with just a sprinkling here and there, maybe of a B plus or something, but it's mostly A's. And so 6 seniors receiving gold cords. Could you guys please stand so we can recognize you? All right, lots of hours of studying represented with these honor cords. And I'd like to recognize also very special group of seniors this morning. They are our second generation graduates. We have 3 second generation graduates. And I know it's been fun for you guys to kind of go down the hall and see your parents' picture on the wall, wonder what they were like when they walked the same halls that you have. So far, none of them have come in my office looking to see their parents' transcript, but someday that might happen, I don't know. But anyway, we have 3 second generation graduates, and so I'm going to call the graduate up and then their parent, And we'd like to get a picture of all you guys together, okay? The first one is Gabby Balance. Her dad, Michael Balance, graduated in the class of 1984. Come on up. We have Emily Barnhart, and her dad, Norman Barnhart, graduated in the class of 1988. And we have Connor Bart. His mom, Leslie Reeves, graduated in the class of 1991. Leslie, are you here? Yes, she is. Go ahead and stand with them over there. It'd be great. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry. 1990. I'm sorry. 1990, okay. Sorry about that. So, parents, we want to thank you. Yeah, let's get together there. Let's get a picture of that. Parents, we want to thank you so much for continuing the tradition of Christian education at Rio Lindo. It's been a privilege to have your sons and daughters on our campus. Thank you. As registrar at Rio Lindo, it's my privilege to inform you that each of these seniors on the stage has met the requirements for graduation as outlined by the Pacific Union Conference and the Northern California Conference, and they have met the requirements for the type of diploma that they are receiving. So congratulations to each of you. I know there's been a lot of hard work, a lot of community service hours, a lot has gone into this success. And at this time, we would like to present some diplomas. That's what you've been waiting for. Yep, all right, it's time. That's right. That's good. We're good. Marching with silver cords, Gabriel Luis Oliveira. A second generation graduate, Connor Cameron Barch. A four-year senior marching with gold cords and receiving an honors diploma, Elijah Jude Romero. A second generation graduate and a four-year senior marching with gold cords and receiving an honors diploma, Gabriella Faith Balance. A four-year senior, Elizabeth Andeli Merklin. A four-year senior marching with gold cords and receiving an honors diploma, Nathan Edward Eyre Pravat. A four-year senior marching with silver cords, Melina Gabriella Higgins. A second-generation graduate and a four-year senior marching with gold cords and receiving an honors diploma, Emily Louise Barnhart. A four-year senior marching with silver cords and receiving an honors diploma, Levis Kahenya Shube Wayaki. A four-year senior marching with silver cords and receiving an honors diploma, Isai Emmanuel Pineda Reese. A four-year senior marching with silver cords and receiving an honors diploma, Linda Chepchirchir Murray. A four-year senior marching with gold cords and receiving a college prep diploma, Brenna Joelle Richards. Madison Alejandra Dietrich. Marching with gold cords and receiving an honors diploma, Jaeyoung Rico Zhuang. A four-year senior, Luis Eduardo Flores España. A four-year senior, Kiala Menz. A four-year senior, Matthew Joseph Barragan. Marching with silver cords, Angelina Tess Anara Walters. David Isai Zamaran. Marching with silver cords and receiving an honors diploma, Paul Boaz Rudolph Dompus. Brandon Jose Magana Galicia. Gideon Alexander J. Salagubang. A four-year senior, Christopher William Creed. A four-year senior, Alexander Nazimko. At this time, we would like to mention those seniors who are graduating in absentia. And so I'd like to read their names as if they were there, and we want to congratulate them as well. We wish they could be here. First one, actually, they're all four-year seniors. A four-year senior, Sarah Chan. A four-year senior, Xian Yi Max Chiang. A four-year senior, Angel Garcia. A four-year senior, Wintao Wilson Lua. A four-year senior, Fangwei Frank Zhao.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you the Rio Lindo Adventist Academy Alumni Class of 2021.
And while they're standing, I'd like to invite, if you have ever attended Rio or graduated from Rio, please stand up and welcome this new class into the Alumni Association. You're all part of this family. Welcome. Thank you, alumni. You may be seated. You guys can sit down. Thank you so much for coming to this graduation and for supporting this class and supporting these teachers and this faculty and staff. We could not have this celebration without you. I want to do a quick reminder that all the photos and videos from this weekend will be available online in a couple of weeks, or you can check the website, which is listed on the back. It's a secure website because there is some personal baby pictures on there. There's some really nice videos that you guys created on that page. And I also want to just do a little plug. If you know a family who is interested in Rio or you believe that this would be a good place for them, please send them our way. Our best students come from our current families. Thank you guys for just being an incredible class. I'm going to pray for you right now. Father God, I thank you for being in this place, for being a part of this school, for designating this place as just a campus that educates students for you. I thank you that we will all be together and that this is not goodbye. This is just a check you later. I'll see you in heaven. I thank you for the staff, for these parents, for this community who has rallied around these students and believed so much in the value of their lives that they would sacrifice to see them come to this day, to this moment, to get that diploma. Father God, I pray a special blessing on each and every student sitting up here dressed in green, that you would walk with them through the rest of their lives as you are ever near. In your name, amen. Be blessed. Go in faith. We'll see you soon.